My goal was not to become an American success story. I just wanted to provide for my family.
There's been a lot of times where we've wanted to just put hands up and say, I'm done. But ultimately, everything that's worth getting is a hard journey.
I want you to know, I didn't learn this stuff on my own. I'm not a genius. I'm just a student. I'm a good student. One of the best decisions I ever made in this company was to become affiliated with restaurantowner.com.
Hi, my name is Jim Laub. Welcome to another restaurantowner.com success story, where we profile some of the nicest, most talented, and hardest working people on the planet, independent restaurant owners. The Squeeze-In is a fun and funky breakfast concept that opened in 1974 in Truckee, California. The restaurant space is just 10 feet 4 inches wide, hence the name, The Squeeze-In. But despite great food, a unique atmosphere, and a loyal following, the restaurant often struggled financially. Then in 2004, the Squeeze-In was purchased by Misty Young and her husband Gary. Since then, the entire Young family has turned the Squeeze-In into a thriving independent family business with multiple company-owned and franchised locations. But to better understand and appreciate what they've been able to accomplish, we're going to take a closer look at the Young family long before they became restaurant owners. While all of our success stories demonstrate the power of hard work, persistence, and determination in overcoming all kinds of challenges, Misty and her family have an especially heartwarming and moving story. It started when Misty was still a child, the second of 7 kids. Her family moved 17 times before she was 15. There was even a brief period when Misty and her mom and siblings actually lived in a car off Route 66 in Southern California. But during those difficult years, one experience would prove to be pivotal in setting the stage years later of purchasing a broken-down cafe that would eventually turn Misty's and her entire family's lives upside down for the better.
I actually had experience in the restaurant industry when I was a kid. My family bought an old Rockefeller mansion in a Southern California town, and the restaurant was downstairs and the family all lived upstairs. So I was peeling potatoes, waiting on tables, sweeping floors, and doing the drawer from the age of about 12 to 17. So there was a 5-year period in there. Then I got married and flew the coop. And that 5 years, once restaurant business gets in you, there's something about it that stays with you.
At age 17, Misty met Gary. They were married in a simple ceremony on a mountain meadow in Mount Baldy, California. The next few years were tough for the newlyweds. They went to school, worked minimum wage jobs, and started a family. Money was tight, and they sometimes needed food stamps and welfare assistance just to get by. It was a tough period for Misty, who desperately wanted to break out of the cycle of instability and painful lack of resources that she had experienced growing up. One of the family's favorite getaways in those early days was that small hippie-style breakfast joint in Truckee. In late 2003, years after Misty had received her college degree and started on a conventional career path, she and Gary learned the Squeeze-In was for sale.
Of course, then I, used the restaurant business to kind of put myself through my early years. Then I went into the professions. I went into college. I became a press secretary to a governor, a press secretary to an attorney general. I became a partner in a marketing firm. But always inside me somewhere was this desire to come full circle back to what I think is real. It's real. It's real to feed people. There's something very genuine about it. And so when I had heard that the Squeeze-In was for sale, it was the only place I ever considered owning. And when I heard that it was possibly going to be on the market, my heart started fluttering. I didn't sleep the night that I heard it that morning, and I didn't sleep that night. I literally waited until the clock ticked 7 the next morning. And the gentleman who sold it to us was a lieutenant colonel in the Army National Guard. So I knew he would be up at 7, and I dialed him at 7. I want to do this. And that's what happened.
To say the Squeeze-In was struggling when Misty and Gary took over is an understatement. Although the restaurant had operated for nearly 3 decades, Misty and Gary were handed the keys only to discover that every area of the restaurant lacked systems, procedures, or standards of any kind. Every part of the Squeeze-In's operation had to be reworked and turned around, and the best part? neither Gary or Misty had any restaurant management or business ownership experience.
So for us, we walked in the door to a restaurant that had zero systems, none. There was not a soda machine. There wasn't a credit card machine. They didn't have daily reports. They had no schedule. There was no schedule on the wall. And when I asked the question, how do people know when to work? They just know when to work, is what they told me. It was shocking. So we literally walked into a place with no systems, and we systematized it. That was hard, so we were working in it all day long. You open a restaurant at 7 means you're there at 6, means you're up at 4:30 or 5. You close it at 2 means you're there till 3 or 3:30 at least. And then you go home and you got to work on payroll and write your quarterly taxes and learn about these things. There's so much learning that had to happen. In fact, I'm going to do a little surprise here because I want you to know I didn't learn this stuff on my own. I'm not a genius. I'm just a student. I'm a good student. In fact, I got to tell you, I have with me I'm going to show you some of these. This is Restaurant Startup and Growth Magazine. I have dozens. I probably have hundreds of copies, and they're worn, they're loved. I mean, look at this. This magazine is beat up. Why? Because I read it. I studied it. I looked at it. I understood what restaurant mapping meant. I understood when you started talking about profit insights, I was reading that. I wanted this business to be successful. I didn't make this happen by myself. One of the best decisions I ever made in this company was to become affiliated with restaurantowner.com. It was the thing that took me from struggling and floundering to focused, structured systems development. And once I got that, once I grokked it, we just took off. There was no stopping us from there. In fact, it was restaurantowner.com that helped us build the entire platform that took us from 1 location to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 and now to franchising. Thank you for that.
One of the most impressive and satisfying aspects about Misty and Gary's success is they didn't just turn their restaurant into a successful business. The Squeeze In has also become a very successful family business that now employs several family members. Misty's daughter Shila, who you saw earlier, is now Squeeze In's president and CEO. Here she is discussing how the restaurant impacted her and her family and why she chose to join her mom and dad and make the family business her career.
When I was 18, my parents bought a restaurant called The Squeeze In. And of course, putting myself through college, I decided I could just be a waitress there and work at the family restaurant. Of course, here we are 12 years later, and I'm the president of the company. Turns out I had a love for the industry and for working with my family. And so from working with them, starting as a host, then being a server, then moving into management, and then eventually into the executive leadership role of president, has been quite the evolution and such a learning process for me, and it's been absolutely fantastic. I realized that working at the Squeeze In was more than just going to put myself through college. I realized I had a passion for leadership and service, and most of all, working with my family. That's something that's really incredibly important to me, is doing something with my support system where all of us are working together towards one goal, and that goal happens to be making money through this awesome restaurant called The Squeeze In.
Since many independent restaurants involve multiple family members, I asked Shila and Misty what they've done to not only make the Squeeze In a successful business, but how they've been able to successfully integrate so many family members into the business as well.
We've really loved having a family business, and we purchased this company in 2004. So we started the negotiations in 2003, purchased it in 2004, and really it was my husband and I exclusively, 1 restaurant, 2 owners, that was it. And of course our daughter Shila came to work with us right away. We knew it was a family business. Of course it wasn't always easy or pretty. One of the things we learned really early on is this idea of the old movie, or was it a movie or a television show, Pleasantville? And there was this, it was a movie. So there was this concept that we had in the family where you realize you're on stage the entire time. So there were times when the car ride up wasn't all fun and games and happy, and we'd get there and we're like, okay, here we go, we're on stage, Pleasantville. And so we would just say one word to each other, Pleasantville. So you might be grr inside, but you're Pleasantville while you're there. That's part of the stage stuff. On the same token, there were times when, frankly, I fired you. I don't know what it was about now, I can't even remember, but I fired her, and I fired her sister. And there were times when there's hushed conversations that say something like this: get off the floor right now, right now, walk out the back door and do not come back into this restaurant. And you do that while you're working, and you just have to do that because you have to protect the guest experience. And that means you have to subjugate your family matters. You take a little family attitude shower when you walk in that door because the guest experience is really important. And our experience is important too.
I think one of the biggest challenges that family businesses and family partnerships have is that it's not a democracy. A business cannot be a democracy. And so we realized early on that somebody had to be in the leadership position making the decisions, and ultimately we weren't always all going to agree on those decisions. So we could have a heated conversation about it, or we could talk about issues, put things on the table, but ultimately somebody has to make the decision and everybody else has to respect that decision.
Yeah.
So when we kind of got into that group, we realized that was going to be easier for us to manage our affairs with. I think another thing too is that in the beginning, mom and dad were kind enough to bring on my husband and I as partners. We were in our early 20s. I wasn't even checking email, and I was quite frankly annoyed that they were expecting me to check email after working on the floor for 8 hours a day. So we definitely had some partner training and some opportunities for growth, but boy, are we glad that we took them, that we stuck through it. There's been a lot of times where we've wanted to just put hands up and say, I'm done. But ultimately, everything that's worth getting is a hard journey. Everything you want is uphill, and your habits are downhill. And so you've got to work towards that uphill vision, and we did that together, which was really helpful. I think one of our secrets to success has been open communication, and a lot of it, and
Yes.
having a respectful manner in which we can communicate those things. I think there's only been a few times over the last 12 years where things have ended in tears or with walkouts. And yes, that happens. It's a
Yes.
family. We're humans. But ultimately, we stick together and we pull together and we move forward, all oars rowing in the same direction.
Agreed.
With 5 highly profitable family-owned squeeze-ins and many more franchise squeeze-ins opening over the next few years, Misty, Shila, their family, and entire team of associates should be extremely proud of what they've been able to accomplish. They've come a long way since starting with the original 10-foot, 4-inch wide squeeze-in in Truckee. And if you ask them about the future, they'll tell you they've only just begun. Thanks for watching this success story. We hope this profile has been instructive and inspires you to continue to work on your own restaurant success story.